Howdy all, welcome to Lex Lives. I think it's time we play a little 7 Days Light. Jeez, what is going on? Oh man, I don't have that side protected. I mean, obviously I do with, oh yeah, I forgot it's the top one, right? I do with my guns, which, fortunately I put some... What's going on here? There we go. Oh man, did you shoot them all up? Oh, I still see... I saw something over there. How you doing? 75 rounds left. Man, I'm gonna need some more bullets. Oh, that's bodies exploding here in the corner. They did not make it through the guns. Man, look at all these dead bodies. Oh, you know what? I totally need to be collecting these for fertilizer purposes. Forgot about that. So, it's definitely a 7 days a day, 7 days a die day today. That's hard to say. Sometime after I finish recording that, it'll be time to join up with the group on our temp server. See what kind of trouble we can get into on there. Should be interesting. Or at least something. Oh man. So, I got a story for you. I hate dealing with people. And, like, I just don't get it. If I have a problem, I try to figure it out myself. It's really rare for me to go to people to ask for help, because, I mean, I guess I know how to search for things on the internet, and there are YouTube channels and Twitches that pretty much, you know, do-it-yourself pages. It's pretty rare for you to come across something you can't find the answer to if you just put a little bit of effort into it. And, so, I get pretty irritated quickly, I guess, when it comes to, dealing with people. And it's a flaw. It's definitely a flaw. But, so, last week, I don't remember what day it was, but sometime last week, now I work, right, most days, and when I say most days, I mean like, you know, Monday through Friday. And it's usually right around 7 o'clock when I finish work for today. Sometimes I get, for the day, not today. Sometimes I get done a little earlier, sometimes I get done a little later. Just depends on how my day goes. And, so when I come upstairs, because it's dinner time and I've just finished work. And I would like to, you know, chit-chat and eat my dinner. And sometimes I wonder if the other 4 adults in the house can manage to get outside with their shoes tied if I'm not holding their hands, it feels like sometimes. And so last week was one of those occasions.
Greetings, stranger.
And so
I've
they
got
decided
the best
that
deals in Navisgain.
I mean, we needed it. We needed the roof inspected. And I had mentioned they were talking about getting a roof inspector out. I'm like, yeah, we need that because there's shingles missing. and I'm like, I am not climbing up on the roof, so you're gonna have to find somebody who can do that. Time goes by. We need to get a roof inspector out. I'm like, yep, I told you, we need to get a roof inspector out. I'm not climbing up there to look. I can't. Heights are not my thing. I can't bring myself to climb that high up a ladder. Because, I mean, we're talking 2.5 stories up off the ground, you know. And so, not gonna happen. And, so somewhere in all of this, my sister-in-law or my brother volunteered their favorite roof guy, and um, and so one would think that that means I'm not involved at all at that point because it was my brother's idea. So I feel like my brother should be involved.
Much
but
obliged,
it's like
stranger.
everything else that happens. They come up with an idea, and then somehow the responsibility all falls on other people. And so there are three adults here besides myself, and the guy shows up, and oop, I did not actually want to get off my bike in front of a zombie. And they're like, you gotta talk to him. I'm like, why do I have to talk to him? I'm like, didn't you call him? Yeah, but I don't know anything about roofing. I'm like, I don't know anything about roofing. Why is this suddenly my responsibility? I'm not a roofer. Oh yeah, south. Okay. I am trying to raise my mercantile, if you're wondering what I'm doing here in the game. And so my selling so that I can get his secret stash stuff, because I'd like to try out the windmill stuff, or not the windmill, the solar panel stuff, but I don't have access to the solar panel stuff. And we were going to do it on our server, but none of us have access to it either. And so I'd like to try and get access to it on here, but I don't ever buy and sell from Bob, so I found that they accept metal, and as we've seen, I don't really have a big problem collecting metal, and so I'm gonna go back to the city and load up on metal again. So the guy gets here, and they're like, yeah, you gotta talk to him. I'm like, I don't know why I have to talk to him, but whatever. And so he goes up on the roof. I'm eating dinner. I guess they thought that I was gonna skip dinner to talk to this guy. And I'm like, he doesn't need me out there looking at the roof. He can come in and tell me. And he's some guy that's like friends with my sister-in-law from elementary school, I guess. I don't know. Every time I talk to him, he mentions how him and my sister-in-law have been friends since they were small children. Like, every time. And so I hate dealing with salesmen, especially, and he is trying to sell himself here as you know, the roof guy that's going to do our roof. And I'm just like, look, man, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not in charge of paying for this or hiring anybody. I'm sure this has all got to be discussed. He's like, well, you could probably get by with, you know, blah, 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 but it all really needs to be redone. And I'm like, I'm sure it does. It got pretty tore up by the windstorm, so I've been telling him for a while now that, because I don't own this place, and I feel like it's not my responsibility since I'm not the owner. I can't commit to redoing someone else's roof, you know? And, I get no say in any of that stuff, so I don't know why I have to do the work to make it happen. If I don't get to make the choices, why do I have to do the work so that I then give you the choices? Because you're just going to argue with what I think should happen anyways. And, man, this story is pretty long. You know, I swear I knocked down a building like that one right there out here somewhere, and I'd like to finish looting it if I can find it. I guess I've got no problem. Oh, it was that one. Oh, right. The glitchy 7 days to die thing. I forgot. I forgot. See, I saw that in the distance several times now, but I thought it was another one. And I didn't want to go through all the effort to tear this one down too. But that's not what happened. This is the one I knocked down. So, hi. So, he gives me the rundown on everything, and that he took pictures, and I don't know if they thought I was gonna go out and talk to him, but I just waited for him to come in the house where I was eating my dinner, and so he wound up talking to the people who called him to come over anyways. That was my thing, was like, didn't you call him to tell him to be here? Yeah, but I don't want to deal with him. I'm like, but it's your house. Why do I have to be the one to deal with him? Am I going to get to choose? Like, do I get to say, ooh, we should do this and this? Well, no, I'm make those choices. I'm like, well, then why am I the one talking to him? So he just goes over what's wrong with the 3 roofs that we have that need to be redone, but he doesn't have any numbers. He just wants to make sure we understand that our roofs need to be fixed. And he was here a long time to do that. I'm like, see, this is why I don't like dealing with these people. This is why I shop online. Click, 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 I'm done. Not, here's a 45-minute conversation with no actual facts about your roof other than it's missing some shingles and it needs to be re-roofed. I knew that when you were called. You're not adding anything to the conversation by telling it to me in 15 different ways. I'm not the one that's making the decision, so don't sell me, sell her. My mother. And so he said he would get back to us with the numbers. And so he finally, it was like 4 days later, I think, and he finally calls. And he's like, yeah, I wanted to get this back to you as soon as I could. Oh, no. He called and talked to my mother, and then she wrote down some stuff, and then she got irritated by having to talk to him, and she's like, here, you talk to him, and just hands me the phone. And I'm like, okay, I don't know, man. She gave me the phone now, so you need to start it over. And he's like, all right, so this is the deal. And once again, it was a way longer conversation than needed to be. I just needed numbers. It's going to cost this. That's it. That's all I was looking for. He goes on about how he's been friends with my sister-in-law for a long time, since they were in elementary school, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yep, mm-hmm. So the numbers on the roof, because I've got things to do. He's like, finally tells us the numbers, and he doesn't give me numbers. No, first he gives me the cost of materials, and how it doesn't really matter where you go. That's probably going to be about the cost of materials. I'm like, yep, I don't care. Just give me the numbers. Give me the final numbers. And we could break it down between. There's like 3 different roofs, but one roof is an attached garage, and so he included that in the other, even though the roofs aren't attached. The roofs are separate roofs, but the buildings are, attached, and so he wanted to make sure that I understood that if we had to, he could just do one part of it, like the house, and he could not do the garage, but of course they both need to be redone because of the windstorm that we had not too long ago. And so I'm like, what, sure. Do you have the numbers on that? I'll write those down. He's like, oh, well, I'd have to sit down and recalculate everything to... Then why are you telling me this? Just give me the numbers. And so I wrote down the numbers, and then he's like, and then it's standard to just double the... And this leads into today's story. This is standard to double the materials as labor. And I'm like, okay, all right. So not double the materials and labor. You don't double it, but you double the price for labor. So it's the price of the materials times 2 is the complete price, which you could have just told me 20 minutes ago in this conversation I didn't want to have. But he didn't. And so I wrote that down. The price of materials times 2, the price of materials on the other building times 2. And then I thought, well, that seems confusing, so I better just write down the total price, which he never gave me, but I calculated, and so I said, here you go. This is, ignore this part. This part down here is the totals. This is the total for the house and the garage. This is the total for the other garage. We call it the shed. It's not really a shed. It's a pretty big building. And there you go. And he's like, so, you know, we can get started on this. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna have to talk to her. I'm sure there's gonna have to be a discussion about how to finance this. I can't give you an answer right now. She'll have to come to a decision later. And he's like, well, I just want to make sure you had those numbers. And I'm like, well, I do now. And then he just pauses, and I'm like, all right, well, thanks. And he's like, well, I was giving you a minute so you could, you don't need the numbers? I'm like, yeah, I wrote them down right here. And you don't need to give them to me again. You already gave them to me once. What more did you want to say? He's like, all right, well, all right. I don't know what he wanted. That's another reason I hate talking to people, because they act like I'm supposed to know where they're going with their own conversation. I can't help you. I need facts. I don't work that way. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I just don't work that way. So I hang up the phone because he's clearly done, and I have the numbers now that she wanted me to get. And she's like, did you even bother to get his phone number? I'm like, I'm sorry, didn't you already contact this guy? What do you mean did I get his phone number? This is like the 3rd conversation you've had with him. No, you were supposed to get his phone number. Well, nobody said that, and so the phone, of course, has got his number in it, so I just entered his number in the phone book. You know, the digital phone book that's on the phone. I just saved it. That was it. It was that hard. And I'm like, there you go. What's his name? And she's like, I don't know. Why didn't you get his name? This is the 3rd conversation you've had with this guy. My only conversations with him have been in your present. And they were only about numbers and how he was friends with my sister-in-law since they were children. And so no, I didn't get his name. Well, I think his name might be John. I'm like, all right, I'm putting it in the book under John Roof. And then it's like, well, I don't think I can afford this. I'm like, well, roofing a house is expensive, and I figured we would have to get a loan. Well, I don't want to get a loan. I'm like, okay. She's like, maybe he'd let us pay it in installments. I'm like, that's a loan. You can't. We could just go to the bank. This house is paid for. We can go to the bank and get a loan. It's such a minuscule amount compared to the cost of the house. They will give us a loan based off of the house. It's that simple. There's nothing to it. We go in. I go with you. I don't want to get a loan. I'm like, well, I don't know how else you're going to pay for it because I definitely don't have that kind of money laying around. And I'm pretty sure no one else who lives here has that kind of money laying around because that's car money. That's buy a car money. Uh, and so yeah, um, you're either the house falls down around us, or you are gonna get a loan, or you're gonna dip into your retirement. Well, I guess she is retired. You're gonna dip into the money that you're supposed to leave to the rest of us. Whatever. Uh, and So she said she had to think about it, and she'd wait to talk to my sister about it. My sister was gone over the weekend to a conference, and so I figured they'd have it all hashed out today. And um, so, so then we get to dinner time tonight, and now obviously at the point where I'm telling this story, my real conversations are not as aggro as they probably sound. Although, man, I think my life would be easier if they were. And so we're at the dinner table, and my mother comes to the dinner table with the notebook, and she tells me that she's going to call the insurance, and that if they send somebody out, she's going to uh, get me so I can talk to the insurance people. Because I don't know, once again, it's her insurance. I'm not on here as someone who can do something about this stuff. I can't remember what button opens the thing here. I thought I heard a... Oh man, I didn't bring any drink with me. And you know what? I'm so full of stuff. I better just go sell this and then go home and get some water. Or I guess I can stop and get some water because I think water's on the way to Bob's. So we're at the dinner table anyways, and she brings out the notebook with her and tells me about the insurance lady coming out. And I'm like, all right, because they're going to turn it in as wind damage and see if the insurance covers any of it and what the deductible is and stuff like that, I guess. Or apparently I'm going to, even though it's not my plan and I don't know what they're looking for, which is probably my key reason I hate doing this stuff, because they come up with ideas, but they don't do any of the work. It all falls on me for some reason, and I don't know what they want or where they're going with these things. So she's doing that, and then she says, "What's the guy's name?" I'm like, "I don't know what the guy's name is. You told me his name was John. That's all I know." And she's like, "You didn't get his name?" We already had this conversation. I'm like, "No, I did not get his name. You told me his name was John, so I put his name in the phone book as John. I believe I put it in there as John Roof, because you didn't give me any more name than John." And she's like, "I can't believe you didn't get his name when you talked to him." I'm sorry. I've had I've had 0 actual conversations with this guy. I've had one convey me the price of fixing the roof, and that's about it. So I had assumed the third time you talked to him that you would have found out the man's name. Yeah, I'm like, "No, I did not get his name. I figured you had his name. You told me it was John." So my sister texts my sister-in-law to find out what that guy's name is. It was John. And then she says, "Did you at least get his phone number?" And I'm like, "Yeah, remember I told you I put it in the phone book when we talked to him before." And she's like, "Well, how are we supposed to talk to him if we don't have his phone number?" I'm like, I put it in the phone book in the phone, in the handheld phone. It's got the digital phone book. I put it in there, and so then she says to my sister, she's like, you should text the sister-in-law and see if she has his phone number because we don't have his phone number. And I'm like, I put it in the phone. I got really loud. And she just looks at me, and I'm like, yeah, I put the phone number in the phone so that we'd have it, when he called the other day. So it's in the phone, and she's like, what phone are you talking about? I'm like, the house phone, where all the phone numbers are kept. And she's like in a phone book. I'm like, yeah, in a phone book on the phone. And she's like, where? I'm like, you know how you use the phone and you open it up and there's the phone book? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, I put it in there. And she's like, which phone did you put it on? I'm like, well, the house phones all have the same phone. It's on the phone. It's in the phone book on the house phones. Well, you don't have to yell at me. Well, obviously, you're acting like I don't know what I'm talking about. The only way to get across is to start getting louder and louder until you stop asking me questions about what I just said and ignoring what I'm telling you, because you always ignore what I tell you or argue against what I said. So I don't know why you ask me to do things, because all you do is argue that I'm not doing them. And I'm like, I thought maybe you couldn't hear me. That's why I was saying it so loud, because you kept asking me the same question over, even though I was giving it was going to be the same answer, and then you finally understood what it was when I got loud, so obviously you either weren't paying attention to my answer after asking me a question, or you couldn't hear me in the first place and I needed to get louder. So then she pouted. She refused to acknowledge I was at the table after that, because I had yelled at her. Ugh. I hate dealing with people. But yeah, that was my pleasant dinner conversation. She just sat there, refusing to even look in my direction, even though we sit next to each other at the table. And refused to answer any questions I had. Oh man, I used up all the fuel on the... Ooh, I wonder if I have more fuel back at home. I don't know.
You need assistance?
Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. So, yeah, I guess if the insurance people come out tomorrow, I will be talking to the insurance agent, or who knows, maybe I'll have to talk to her on the phone, because obviously I'm the only one who can talk to people on the phone, even though I'm not exactly sure what's going on. And, there are literally 5 adults in this house. I don't know why I'm the one that has to talk to these people. I keep telling them I'm taking her and one of the other adults to get a hearing exam, because neither one of them apparently can hear what you're saying anymore. And I was trying to remember what that conversation was. I know the one can hear because he always asks questions about what you just asked about. So he obviously heard what you said, but decided it wasn't worth his effort to pay attention, and has to go back in and re-ask the same question you just answered. He does it all the time. But if you talk to him, he acts like he can't hear you. So, I really hate when you're talking to someone else and he asks questions about what you're talking to with someone else. That drives me crazy too. I like how you sell this stuff, and I could probably just do this. And you can see your prices change. Alright, so we're up to 46. Ooh. That's just slightly better than what I got, though. So, what do we got for points here? I only have 7 points. And... where is the selling stuff? Here it is, secret stash. So I'm at 2 out of 3, but I need to get my barter to 80. 80. I just got to 46. I've looked at other things that you can sell this guy, but he refuses to buy stuff after a while, and so I thought it would be easier if I just sold him stuff that he always buys, like metal.
Safe travels.
So that was my plan with this. Man, I am so not looking forward to talking to the insurance agent tomorrow, if that happens. Because I don't know what they want to say. They don't give me any information, especially when they refuse to talk to me because I raised my volume. I didn't yell at her like she acts. She's always been this way. It's not like it's a new thing. Anytime she doesn't understand something and asks you to explain something to her, she gets mad. Period. My entire life. You cannot explain something to my mother because she just gets mad. And then she says things like, I wish they just had a book on this so I didn't have to talk to you. Thanks. I wish you had looked for the book in the first place so I didn't have to talk to you. So there. Do I really need to be here? Oh, yes, I need gas, right. I was going to look to see if I had some gas. Well, that was a really long story about getting people to fix the roof, but it was exceptionally irritating while it was going on today, so I thought it might be a semi-interesting story about why I avoid talking to my own family, if I can help it. So, click like if you like, subscribe, share, and catch the next one. I will talk to you later.